From Charles Barkley getting wasted before an NBA game to the Iron Virgin, these are the absolute craziest NBA stories from the 1990s. The case of the missing jersey. You might think Michael Jordan's number 23 jersey is the most protected piece of fabric in sports history, but for one game in 1990, it vanished. The date was Valentine's Day 1990, and the Bulls were in Orlando to play the Magic. The narrative has always been that Jordan just decided to switch things up, but the truth is a literal crime scene. Someone got into the Bulls locker room and stole Jordan's number 23 jersey. Later, the jersey was reportedly found above the locker room ceiling tiles, and suspicion fell on people inside the building. The scene in the locker room was pure panic. The Bulls had absolutely no backup jersey for him. They were desperate. They even searched the crowd for a fan wearing a replica number 23 that might fit Jordan, but they couldn't find one. They had no choice. They had to give the greatest player on earth a generic emergency jersey pulled from the bottom of the kit bag. It had no name on the back. It was just a blank jersey with the number 12. Jordan was reportedly furious, but he channeled that anger. He went out and dropped 49 points wearing that nameless number 12. The wedding of the century. Dennis Rodman was the internet before the internet existed. He knew exactly how to get attention. In 1996, he decided to stage a wedding, and the media went crazy trying to figure out who the lucky bride was. The truth was the ultimate troll job. Rodman showed up to a Manhattan bookstore in a horse-drawn carriage, but he wasn't wearing a tuxedo. He was wearing a massive bridal gown and full makeup. This really wasn't just a cheap prank. It was a high-production event. Rodman didn't cut corners. He went hard with the gown, the makeup, the whole production. That was the day Rodman stopped being just a rebounder and became a full-blown performance artist. The regret quote. Charles Barkley in the 90s was not a role model, and he made sure you knew it. In 1997, there was a famous incident at a bar in Orlando. The rumor was that Barkley just attacked a guy. The truth is that a patron at the bar threw a glass of ice at Barkley first. Barkley isn't the guy you want to throw ice at. He didn't call security. He picked the man up and literally hurled him through a glass storefront window. The best part of this story isn't the fight, it's the quote. Later, when Barkley was asked if he had any regrets about the incident, he said, "Yeah, I regret we weren't on a higher floor." The human ankle weight. Jeff Van Gundy looks like he should be doing your taxes, not breaking up fights. But in the 1998 playoffs, he tried to be a hero. The Knicks were playing the Heat, and a massive brawl broke out between Alonzo Mourning and Larry Johnson. These are two terrifying giants. Van Gundy, who is a short, bald man, ran onto the court to stop it. It went horribly wrong. He panicked and fell down. He ended up clinging to Alonzo Mourning's leg for dear life while Mourning dragged him across the court like a rag doll. It looked like a toddler trying to stop a tank. Alonzo Mourning later described the sensation perfectly.
At the time, he felt like a piece of gum on my shoe.
Before our next section, I'd like to introduce today's sponsor, Kalshi. If you want to support the channel, go to the link in the description and use code ISO right now. Kalshi is the only place where you can legally trade on the outcome of NBA games, NFL playoffs, and news in all 50 states. Kalshi is the largest prediction market in the United States. You're not betting against a house here. You're trading yes or no contracts against your peers, exactly like buying or selling a stock. Because it's a regulated financial market, it's totally legal in California and Texas. Instead of just arguing in the comments, you can trade on your knowledge. I'm actually looking at a market right now on whether LeBron will retire this year. I'll say that he will retire. The share prices move based on news, injuries, and team performance. You can buy in, watch the value go up, and cash out whenever you want to take your profit. Stop sitting on the sidelines. Click the link in the description or download the Kalshi app. Use code ISO to get a free $10 when you deposit $100. That's code ISO to start trading today. The beer diet. Today, NBA players spend millions on their bodies. They have personal chefs, sleep doctors, and biohackers. In the early 90s, the league had a different approach to sports science. Manute Bol was 7'7" and incredibly thin. He was listed around 200 pounds, which is dangerously light for that height. The team was desperate for him to gain weight, but he had absolutely no appetite. He just couldn't eat enough food to bulk up. Bol was known to like Heineken, and this is where the story turns into pure folklore. Instead of protein shakes or mass gainer, there's a long-running legend that he leaned on beer calories to help keep weight on. Imagine that meeting. A professional sports team basically pitching a beer diet plan for their starting center. The legend even gets told as a 10 beers a day diet plan. It perfectly illustrates how unscientific the Wild West era really was. The Game Boy injury. In the modern NBA, players miss games for load management or minor soreness. Fans roll their eyes. But in 1991, a rookie named Lionel Simmons missed games for the most 90s kid reason of all time. Simmons was a beast for the Sacramento Kings. He was a promising young star. Then, out of nowhere, he was listed as out for 2 games. The official injury report said he had severe tendonitis in his right wrist and forearm. It sounded serious, like a repetitive stress injury from shooting thousands of jump shots. The truth was much funnier. Simmons had developed a serious addiction to the newly released Nintendo Game Boy. He played so aggressively for so many hours that he ended up with a tendonitis flare-up and couldn't shoot a basketball for those 2 games. The clean getaway choke. When we talk about player-coach fights, everyone mentions Latrell Sprewell. The headline is always, Sprewell choked his coach, PJ Carlismo. But the headline leaves out the craziest part of the story. The timeline of this fight is what makes it true NBA lore. It started at practice in 1997. Carlismo got on Sprewell about his passing. Sprewell snapped. He didn't just grab the coach, he dragged him by the throat for several seconds. Teammates had to peel him off. Sprewell was kicked out of the gym. Here's where it gets insane though. Sprewell didn't just go home to cool off. He went to the locker room, and then about 20 minutes later, he walked back onto the court to try and fight the coach again. It wasn't just the heat of the moment. It was premeditated rage. In his defense later, he told reporters,
"He could breathe. It's not like he was losing air or anything like that."
Mad Max enters the chat. Years before the Malice at the Palace changed the rules about fans and players, Vernon Maxwell set the standard. They didn't call him Mad Max for nothing. He was the enforcer for the Houston Rockets, and in 1995, he decided he had heard enough. During a timeout in Portland, Maxwell looked up into the stands. He didn't throw a water bottle. He didn't yell back. He calmly walked off the court and went into the crowd. He found the fan who was heckling him and punched him directly in the face. At first, it looked like pure insanity. Why would a millionaire athlete attack a random guy in the stands? Maxwell's explanation was that the fan crossed a line. He claimed the guy made comments about his deceased daughter and used extremely personal language. The fan denied that version. The NBA still suspended him for 10 games, and the whole thing became a messy, disputed preview of how ugly player-fan moments can get. The Shaq-proof revolution. We have all seen the highlights of Shaquille O'Neal breaking backboards. It looks cool, but we forget that Shaq was actually a safety hazard for the entire league. In 1993, his rookie power was so overwhelming that he forced the league to call in engineers to rethink the hardware. Shaq didn't just shatter the glass. Jordan did that. Dawkins did that. Shaq completely destroyed the infrastructure. In a game against the Nets, he dunked so hard that the whole support came down. The shot clock and backboard came down with it, and accounts from the time say it nearly clipped him. He did it again in Phoenix later that year. The league realized this was a financial disaster. They were losing money on equipment delays because one guy was too strong for the physics of the sport. They had to reinforce baskets around the league to be more Shaq-proof. The Iron Virgin versus the locker room. AC Green is famous for being the Iron Man. He played in 1,192 consecutive games, a record that will probably never be broken. But inside the locker room, he was famous for something else. He was a strictly celibate virgin during his career. In the 90s NBA, which was known for its wild nightlife, AC Green was a unicorn. His teammates viewed his celibacy as a challenge. Stories from the era say they sent women to his hotel room as traps to test his faith. AC Green didn't fold. The comedy reached its peak because the locker room never stopped trying to mess with him. But the exact pranks change depending on who tells the story. The one part that doesn't change is that Green kept his standards, kept showing up every night, and kept stacking consecutive games like it was nothing. The Poisoned Pizza Investigation. We celebrate the flu game as the ultimate example of Michael Jordan's will to win. You know the images. Game 5 of the 1997 NBA Finals, Jordan is visibly shaking, sweating buckets, and collapsing into Scottie Pippen's arms after the final buzzer. The narrative was perfect. The greatest player ever fighting off a viral illness to destroy the Utah Jazz. But the label might not be the whole story. One version of the story, told by Jordan's longtime trainer Tim Grover, is that it was food poisoning, not the flu. Grover has described the details years later, and it sounds like something out of a mob movie, even if it was just bad luck. It was late the night before the game. We are in Utah. Jordan was starving, but it was a ghost town. Everything was closed. Grover has said he finally found one pizza place that was still open and placed an order. But when the delivery arrived, the vibes were off immediately. Grover said he had a bad feeling the second he opened the door. Jordan was the only person in the room who ate the slices. Grover didn't touch it. By the middle of the night, Jordan wasn't just feeling sick. He was curled up in the fetal position, violently ill. Grover has described doctors being involved and IVs being part of the response. He didn't play through some romantic movie flu. He played through whatever wrecked his stomach and still dropped 38 points to win the game. The "Is Shaq Worth It" newspaper poll. Why did Shaquille O'Neal leave the Orlando Magic? The history books would tell you he wanted the bright lights of Hollywood. They say he wanted to make movies and record rap albums, and Orlando was just too small for his personality. That's only half the story. The truth is that one incredibly petty newspaper poll became part of the breakup. During the summer of 1996, Shaq was a free agent. The negotiations were tense, and then the Orlando Sentinel decided to run a poll asking the fans a simple question: is Shaq worth $115 million? You would think the fans would scream yes. He was a generational talent. He had just taken them to the finals. Instead, a staggering 91% of callers voted no. Shaq was training with Team USA at the Olympics at the time. By most accounts, he saw the results and it stung. He signed with the Lakers that offseason. That one newspaper poll didn't single-handedly do it, but it sure didn't help Orlando look like a city that appreciated its superstar. The Jordan Dome pickup games.
Hey Mikey, we like it.
Not a huge surprise, but clearly one of the great comebacks since Burt Reynolds' hairline.
When Michael Jordan came back from playing baseball in 1995, he looked rusty. He lost in the playoffs. He needed to get his basketball body back. The narrative is that he just went to practice with the Bulls like a normal player, but Michael Jordan didn't do normal. He was busy filming the movie Space Jam that summer, but he refused to miss a workout, so he demanded a place to train on the studio lot. Warner Bros. Built something called the Jordan Dome. It was a massive, inflatable facility set up on the lot, complete with a regulation court, weight room, and air conditioning. But the real story is who was inside. Jordan invited the best players in the league, guys like Reggie Miller and other NBA stars, to the lot after filming Wrapped. The pickup games in the Jordan Dome were reportedly more intense than actual NBA playoff games. Scottie Pippen's 1.8-second mutiny. Scottie Pippen is remembered as the ultimate teammate. He was the Robin to Jordan's Batman, the selfless defender who held the fort down when MJ retired to play baseball. But for 1.8 seconds in 1994, he staged a mutiny that almost destroyed his entire reputation. It was Game 3 of the playoffs against the New York Knicks. Michael Jordan was playing baseball. This series was a bloodbath. The score was tied. There were exactly 1.8 seconds left on the clock. In the huddle, Coach Phil Jackson drew up the final shot, but he didn't draw it up for Pippen, the team's best player. He drew it up for the rookie, Tony Kukoc. Pippen felt insulted. He was the MVP candidate. He was the leader. He looked at Phil Jackson and refused to re-enter the game. He sat on the bench in protest while Kukoc went out and hit the game-winning buzzer beater. It remains the one dark stain on a nearly perfect career, proving that even the best teammates have a breaking point. The drunk game. We hold athletes to a high standard. We expect them to treat their bodies like temples. But in 1992, Charles Barkley treated his body like a frat house, and he still dominated. This is the legend of the drunk game. Barkley has told a story from his Philadelphia days where he thought he was getting traded to the Lakers. According to him, he got the call he was waiting for. His agent phoned him and said, "Pack your bags, you're going to the Lakers. It's a done deal." Barkley was ecstatic. He was finally free. To celebrate leaving Philly, he went out and started drinking. Then the phone rang again. The trade had fallen through at the last second. The deal was dead. And worse, they still had to play the Cleveland Cavaliers. Barkley has said he was, to put it politely, hammered. Most guys would have called in sick. Barkley played and still put up 23 points and grabbed 9 rebounds. It's the most Barkley story ever. Chaos, bad decisions, and production anyway. The Fax resignation. Breaking up is hard to do. Quitting a job is even harder. Most people do it face to face, but Pat Riley is not most people. In 1995, he was the coach of the New York Knicks, one of the most prestigious jobs in sports, but he wanted out. He wanted to go to Miami. The problem was that he was still under contract. He couldn't just leave. The Knicks management was ready for a fight. They expected a meeting. They expected a negotiation. Instead, Pat Riley used the cutting-edge technology of 1995 to drop a bomb. He didn't call, and he didn't hold a press conference. He wrote a short statement and fed it into a fax machine. The fax rolled into the Knicks front office. It was a resignation effective immediately. The Knicks were furious. They accused the Heat of tampering, which is basically stealing a coach. The fallout got so nasty that Miami eventually had to send draft compensation and cash to New York to settle the beef. The Starvation MVP. Hakeem Olajuwon is widely considered the most skilled center ever, but what he did in 1995 defies medical science. It was February. The NBA schedule was brutal. It also happened to overlap with Ramadan, the holy month for Muslims. Hakeem observed the fast strictly. That meant no food and, more importantly, no water from sunrise to sunset. For an elite athlete running up and down a court for 40 minutes, dehydration is the enemy. It causes cramps, it destroys your energy. But Hakeem didn't care. Depending on tip-off times, it meant going through huge chunks of game day, and sometimes game time, without anything. Opposing teams knew this. They tried to run the floor faster, they tried to tire him out. It backfired. Hakeem didn't get tired. He got better. He claimed the fasting gave him lighter feet and a spiritual focus that nobody else had. He averaged around 29 points and 10 rebounds that month and was named NBA Player of the Month. He was destroying the best athletes in the world while fasting. The groin kick tax law. Dennis Rodman was a chaotic force. He dyed his hair, he wore dresses, he rebounded like a maniac. But in 1997, he managed to do something truly unique. He created one of the weirdest tax cases in sports history by kicking a guy. It was a game against the Timberwolves. Rodman was chasing a loose ball and tripped over a cameraman named Eugene Amos, who was sitting courtside. Rodman was frustrated. He didn't help the guy up. He wound up and kicked Amos directly in the groin. It was caught on live TV. Rodman was suspended, but the legal battle was just starting. To avoid a massive lawsuit, Rodman agreed to pay Amos a $200,000 settlement. But here's the comedy. The IRS saw that payment and wanted a cut. They tried to tax the cameraman on the settlement. The case went to court, and the real issue wasn't, is a groin kick a physical injury? It was how to allocate the settlement. The portion tied to personal physical injury could be excluded from income, but the portion tied to confidentiality was taxable. Dennis Rodman's temper tantrum didn't rewrite the tax code, but it did create a bizarre little precedent about how settlements get sliced up on a tax return.